So we know that x squared plus y squared, we know that x squared plus y squared equals 1. We know that this equation will give us a circle of radius 1. In this video, we're going to try and understand why this equation will yield this graph and this equation will yield this graph. So if you look at this here, you've got a negative x squared. So when you have a negative here, just remember along the y-axis there's a gap. Along the y-axis there's a gap. Here you've got a negative x squared. So along the x-axis you've got a gap. So bear that in mind. So we're going to try and understand why this equation will yield this thing, and then why this equation will yield this graph. So let's have a look at this one here. So looking at this one, you start out with your equation. Add y squared to both sides, that will then give you this, and then take away 1, that will then give you this. Now square root both sides, that will then give you this. When you square root, it will be a plus minus. Now notice that this is an even function because you got x squared here. So it's an even function. So what happens on one side will be the same as what happens on the other side. So just bear that in mind. Bear in mind that it's an even function. And then also look at this. Imagine this as being a bubble here. You're square rooting a bubble, but then if you look at this graph, x squared minus 1 will look like this. So you're square rooting a bubble. So anything in between here, it would be a negative. So you can't really square root a negative. That's why your graph looks something like this. Bear with me. Bear with me. That's why your graph looks like this, because between negative 1 and 1, this thing here will be negative. That's why it's undefined here. Well, this is not in your domain. That's why you've got a gap here. So yeah, that's why you've got a gap here. And also if you look at this here, when x is 1, that would be right here. Put 1 into here. 1 squared would be 1. Take away 1. That would be square root 0. So that's why you start at here. And then when it's 2, so you put 2 into here. So this thing here would be 4. 4 take away 1. That would be 3. So square. If you look at the normal square root, 3 is somewhere around here. You square root 3. So, that would then take you to here. But then if you put a 3 into here, 3 squared would be 9. Take away 1, that would be 8. So 8 will be, looking at the normal square root, 8 would be somewhere over here. The point I'm trying to make here is that around this region it will still act like the square root of x. So around this region here, it will still act like the square root of x. It will still take that form, because if you look at this here, beyond 1 is if you put 2 into here, it would be this bubble here will be 3, square root of 3. If you put 3 into here, it would be square root of 8, but it's still going to take this form. So 3 is here, 8 is here, is still going to take this form. That's why your graph looks will still take that form. Now look what happens as x tends to infinity. As x tends to infinity, you've got to imagine this as being a bubble. X is going to get very large. So when you have a very large, you square it. It's going to become very large, and then you take away 1. Taking away 1 is really negligible. You can pretty much ignore this negative 1 because this is going to be so big. So as x tends to infinity, this thing here, this bubble here, will just act like x squared. Will just act like x squared, and then when you square root it, it will just act like x. So this whole thing here will act like x. So if you imagine a graph of y equals x, it will look something like this. And then as you head towards infinity, your graph will look like this. It will start out taking the form of a square root, but as you get larger and larger, it will have this asymptote along the y equals x axis. So it will look like this. And then remember, square root, it will be plus minus, so it will be exactly the same, but in the hang on, but along the, hang on, so it would take this form here. It would look something like this. It would look something like this. And don't forget, this is an even function. Don't forget this is an even function because of this x squared here. It would be an even function. So anything on the right hand side would be exactly the same on the left hand side. So your graph would look something like this. Okay, so it would take this form. Okay, that's why it looks like that. And then if you look at the other one, if you look at this one here, I will continue in the next video. Okay.